In today's video, I'm sharing 6 different ways you can take Dollar Tree items and transform them into beautiful home decor for your home that you love. This super easy high-end Dollar Tree wood bead piece, we're going to need to grab one of their bead wreaths. Well, 2 really. We're going to need 2 for this one. Then we're going to need to disassemble one of them. Anybody a little old school and know what movie that term comes from? Put it in the comments. Anyhow, to get the clamp open that is holding them so snugly tight, we're going to just take a pair of needle nose pliers and bend it back. And then we're going to need to take those needle nose pliers and bend it far enough back that we can pull a bunch of the beads off of just one of these. Remove as many beads as you would want or leave them on. I planned on cutting down our wire just a bit, so this second fits in the center of our first larger piece. And I just wanted to have some of the beads removed. Again, this is a preference, completely up to you. Once I cut it down to size, I then took those needle nose pliers and curved it enough so we could attach both the pieces back, latching them together for a nice tight fit. To attach both of the bead wreaths together, I'm going to use some of Dollar Tree's wired jute cord. This stuff is amazing. And I also like using this more than just like regular pokey gauge wire. It's softer on my little hands. I cut off a small section and just wrapped it until they were both tightly put together. Now it's time to decorate your piece. Feel free to use whatever you would like for this. Grab your florals, grab a ribbon, grab a bow, entirely up to you. I just grabbed some of my floral bits and attached them around, adding a little bit of lace for a bow, and that's it for this one. This boho style candle holder, we're going to need to grab 2 of these from Dollar Tree, and we're going to take some beads and accent these on up. To attach our pieces, I'm going to use some of my favorite Gorilla Glue gel and a little bit of hot glue. We're going to take these and pile them right on top of one another, facing them bottoms touching, if that makes sense. Absolutely use whatever glue you would like. This is just how I decided to roll along with these pieces. And then allow this to dry for a couple minutes. Make sure those suckers are on there straight and then grab your beads. Now, I initially tried to use the strand the Dollar Tree gave me, but I didn't really like that. Really? Give me a break, beads. Give me a break. So I grabbed some twine and fed a bunch of beads onto the string. I just thought that this would be the easiest way to go about it, since I was going to put 3 different strands of beads around our candle holder here. I started with the center, and since this was the biggest and there was no nook for me to really tuck those beads into, I also applied some glue after I tied them together. And then I went about tying more beads around to the small sections that had little nooks in the top and in the bottom. Now it's time to paint up our piece. I'm going to be using some chalk paint for this. Feel free to use whatever you would like. I know that this stuff is going to give me decent coverage. It's also pretty thick, so it's going to cover in any little gaps that might possibly be there between the beads, the twine, and our candle holder. You can leave your piece white if you would like. I'm going to grab some of my antique Waverly wax and put a nice coat all over this piece. It's going to give us a faux wood look, giving us even more of that boho-y vibe. Now, I know it's not much to stare at right now, but what we're going to do is take more of this chalk paint. Now, you can use a chippy brush for this, but I've been doing this long enough to know that a fan brush will work as well. Just make sure that you have dabbed a ton of that paint off so it's really dry and you're just brushing a light coat all over your piece. You're going to want to make sure it's really dry because you'll have clumps of paint in certain sections if you don't. Antique Waverly Wax is such a great way to fake a faux wood look, and I love how taking that dry brush over it can give you such a beautiful weathered look, and you'll never know that the piece came from Dollar Tree. For this beaded tabletop decor piece, we're going to need to grab one of Dollar Tree's bead wreaths and a base. We're going to need a base. Grab whatever base you would like. I'm going to use one of these. I just pulled it out of my stash. And then you can leave your wreath the size that it is. Since my base was so small, I just took a pair of needle nose pliers and pulled them apart to remove some beads so I could cut this down to size. Now, people, I didn't know, do we have an entrance for the wire cutters? I literally don't remember. If you remember, put it in the comments below. I feel like I said we weren't giving it one because you guys made me give the finger sander an entrance. Anyhow, back to the project. I took the needle nose pliers and I curved down the piece that I cut down and then rehooked it back up. And then I don't know why, but my circles were not coming out like circles. These things are, they're wonky. Be patient with them. You know, after some wiggling and stuff, you'll get it back in shape. Usually when I create something like this, I'm working with the bamboo rings from Dollar Tree. I love those things. Whenever I see them, I definitely grab a bunch. So I'll staple them down. For these bead pieces, that can be difficult, and it works best if you use a piece of styrofoam. I like to cut out the center of mine gingerly so you don't overcut it. If it's too big, it's not going to hold your bead wreath in place. So just keep that in mind if you go to recreate this at home. Anybody else go to use their glue gun and that joint is just out of glue almost automatically? And yes, I'm still using this little craft hack. It really does help keep that little glue stick in the back there when you're trying to carry on with your crafts instead of holding onto a glue stick and pushing it through. If you want to use some Type-On Quick and Thick as well as the hot glue, you go right ahead. For crafter's sake, I just use hot glue for this project. If you want it to last a little bit longer, make sure you add something else as well. This is a little wood round coaster. You could use anything for this part or leave it completely empty. I want it to make a base in here, so you could put anything, a candle, you could set a little knickknack, really decorate this however you want. And the beauty part is the florals, I'm not gluing anything in here. I'm keeping it all just willy-nilly with no glue, so you can switch it out all year long for whatever holiday and whatever season. Next time you're in Dollar Tree, head on over to their floral section. We're gonna need one of their bouquet holder thingamabobbies. I know, wait, listen. I promise it's going somewhere good. Just give me a second. We're also gonna need one of these joints, and you can get them in their little party section. They're not glass, they're actually plastic. This little piece fits right in the top of here perfectly, and it just sits right on the lip. I mean, look at that. Now you could glue it in here if you want. We're not going to do that. We are going to cover up the section of the stick that, you know, it's kind of noticeable through the clear part, taking a little bit of painter's tape and just wrapping it around where that ends. Or you could pull the paint down further, whatever makes you fuzzy inside. This was perfect for me, and then I grabbed some of my multi-surface in the black color. You can absolutely use whatever color you would like. This is just what I wanted to use for this project. And I'm rolling with multi-surface because I know that this works well on plastic. You could use a pouncer if you want it. anything that would get that paint on there. I'm just using a paintbrush, and I applied 2 coats all over this piece. Next, I'm grabbing one of Dollar Tree's circular ceramic coasters that they've been selling in a 2-pack. Now you could use a wood round if you want, but I wanted something that had a little bit of weight on it, and I thought this would be perfect to fit on the top of here for an added little base, so we could put a candle on the top of here, decorative pieces, whatever. However, I did not like the way that that would be glued on, so I popped the top off, which is fairly easy. There's like these little clampy bits around the foam, and the foam you can remove if you want. And then found this little circular wood bit in my stash and placed it right in the top here. Is that, it was giving me a problem moving around while I was trying to get this back on here. Once I got it back in, I used some Titebond quick and thick and hot glue to attach the 2 pieces together. I don't recommend just using hot glue. You want to use something to give you that long lasting hold as well. And I let this dry overnight and gave it a good wiggle to make sure it was on there, and brought in some florals. Use whatever florals you want. This is just what I went with. You could go with something nice and bright. You do you, my friends. No judgment here. Literally, that's one of the reasons I also like this. Tired of looking at that, you can just replace it. And I didn't glue anything in. Took the painter's tape off of the plastic and then grabbed some lace I had in my stash. I picked this stuff up like vintage lace from thrift stores and just tear it up all the time. And I'm just taking a couple pieces of little scrap bits and wrapping some fairy lights around it. Now, if I'm being honest, I couldn't find my normal fairy lights that I get from Amazon. I think those are down in my description box. This is one of the cork bottle pieces that I had sitting right next to my desk that I'm using for staging. This idea can be remixed all year long. Swap out those florals, swap out that lace, swap out whatever you're putting on top of your piece and match it into your decor. For this tabletop decor piece, we're going to need 2 of Dollar Tree's canvases. Now I'm going to use the square one for our main section, and then one of these little burlap joints. You could absolutely use whatever you would like. Take this idea and remix it with what works for your home decor. Just keep in mind that these square joints, they're MDF, they're not wood, okay? I wanted the size of it because size matters for this project, people. I mean, at least to me. Use whatever you want. Okay. The sorry part of this is removing the canvases. If you've never actually removed the canvases from Dollar Tree and people are like, oh, use a staple remover. No, it's not always the best, most effective way. It still hurts me and I got to squeeze in there. One of the best ways for me is to take this little teeny tiny Cricut tool and smoosh it in underneath the nails and pry them up. But even then, sometimes the universe is working against you. Really? What miserable human being piled all these in this one spot for me to get out? I got burlap burn on my knuckle. Ouch. Oh, it hurts. But when you're all through with that misery, they look like this, 2 pieces with a bunch of holes in them. We're still going to carry on and bring on in the miter shears. I have a lot of people ask me that have either purchased these or that own them, how do you get them open? And I like to share this every so often. There's a little screw here and you just pull it down and them suckers fly right open. And when you're done using them, you just pop it right back up where it was. Now, if you don't have any dowels at home, I wanted to share with you how you can just cut these frames down and use the square pieces out of the frames. I usually have square wood dowels, but today I didn't actually have any that were my size, so we're going to wing it and use these for the little kickstands to hold up our MDF piece. First things first, we need to cut these down to actually be about the same size. And do y'all see what I have laying on this table? Okay, I don't think in 5 years, as of 2025, me making content on YouTube, I don't know I've ever busted out a ruler for anything. I mean, and truth be told, as you can see here, I'm not really using it. I'm kind of just eyeballing it still. Not everything's exactly matched. I just wanted to make sure that for the most part, they were the same size. And the reason this really matters is because we have to cut them on a 45-degree angle on both sides and then attach one on each side of our MDF frame here. I'm going to be using some tacky glue to get that long lasting hold and some hot glue to get an immediate hold. These little pieces are going to make sure that our main section is nice and stable. Now I recommend letting this dry a couple hours. Anything else, it's completely up to you if you want to just keep carrying on. I then picked a paint color. I'm just going to use black for this and put a nice coat all over everything. I picked these little hanging cork glass bottles up from Dollar Tree about a month or two ago. Thought they were really cool because you could remove the cork and the little bits that were inside, you could pull them out. I love things that allow you to be able to change them out and remix them with your decor, and thought that these little greenery pieces would give it more of a high-end look than the purple pieces that were in there. So I cut them down to size and grabbed one of my little wine bottle cork pieces that have the fairy lights on the top and started alternating between shoving some of those fairy lights in there and shoving some of the greenery pieces in there. The cork bottle fits on there pretty well, and it allows you to turn it on and off. If you want to glue things down, you can. I did not. I just kind of snipped the little rope piece off at the top, so this way I could tie one on each side. And this allows you to be able to change out whatever you want to hang on your piece as the seasons go on throughout the year, or you just want to change your home decor up. Dollar Tree DIY, I wanted to show you an easy way you can take their beads and add them to their candle holders. Use as many of Dollar Tree beads as you would like for this project. We're also going to need some twine. I'm only going to be using 2 beads. Well, technically it's 4. And then I'm going to go into my stash and grab some of these. Listen, 2 of the beads are from Dollar Tree. The candle pieces are from Dollar Tree. We need them to like kind of tiered down. We're using some beads from my stash. You do what you want to do. I'm not judging you. But if I'm being real, I quickly came to regret my decision. I couldn't get the teeny tiny beads on the twine. It kept like messing up. So then I had to bust out the painter's tape, make it so it was nice and teeny tiny and pointy so I could fit the smaller beads on there. So it just, you know, it looked nice. I did a total of 4 beads and I made 2 strands. And then I grabbed my black paint by Waverly. Use whatever paint you would like. I just wanted to keep it black so this way it matched our candle holders. And then I allowed this to dry completely. Once they were dry, I then grabbed my hot glue gun. Now, people, use extra glue if you want this to be a little bit more stable. Use some Type On Quick and Thick, some Gorilla Glue gel, whatever you would like. And also this next part, keep in mind, I have crafter's hands, okay? I cut the end of the twine at the bottom of the smallest bead and then I pop some glue. Do not do what I'm doing unless you want to hurt yourself. I feel like I got calluses on my fingertips. Anybody else feel like they have that? So when I touch stuff with the hot glue, it doesn't burn me as bad as it used to many years ago when I started doing all of this. So I tapped that glue down to make sure it was flat around the bead and that they weren't going to come flying off. And then I put a little coat of black paint so you couldn't notice the twine. I then took the twine from the top of the beads and wrapped it around underneath of the candle holder like this. I just took a little bit of hot glue. If you want to tuck that down and tie a knot, you can absolutely do that. I just took the hot glue and then pressed the twine up against it until it dried, grabbed some more of that black paint and painted it all solid. So everything just blended really well together. And how cute are these? Adding a little bit of a beaded accent. If you're looking for more Dollar Tree inspiration, check out this video right here. As always, people, thank you all so much for hanging out with me today. I appreciate you so much. Until next time.